I still remember the sound the door made when she opened it. That slow, wooden creak, the kind that carries down your spine like a whisper you weren't meant to hear. I was already frozen in place, back against the cool concrete wall of the basement, when I saw her shadow stretch down the stairs. She wasn't supposed to be home yet. It was late, after midnight, and I'd thought I had the house to myself. The basement light had a hum to it, soft and electric, like it knew what it was illuminating. The air down there always smelled a little dusty, a little secret. I used to come down when I needed to clear my head, but that night, I wasn't trying to clear anything. I was remembering her. Not her, my sister, but someone else. Someone who had left something inside me I didn't know how to erase. And in that still, dim space, surrounded by boxes no one had opened in years, I let my mind go there. I let my body follow. And then the door creaked. At first, I thought maybe it was the house settling. It does that when it rains, but when I looked up, I saw the blur of movement. The outline of her hair. Her voice came half a second later. "Hello." She said it casually, like she was expecting nothing. But I knew from the way her footsteps slowed that she saw something before she understood it. And the worst part? I saw her too. We locked eyes for maybe half a second, but in that breath, something ancient passed between us. A shame I hadn't prepared for. A heat I couldn't bury. I pulled away from the corner so fast I knocked over an old lamp. The bulb flickered and died. Silence rushed in. "Why was the light on?" she asked. I couldn't speak. My heart was too loud. She stood there, not fully down the stairs, not fully out. Her eyes didn't move from mine. She didn't blink. I could see her trying to piece together what she'd walked in on, but not wanting to. And yet, she didn't leave. She didn't run back upstairs, slam her door, or yell. She just stood there, breathing shallowly, her hand still on the railing. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between us. Something neither of us would ever be able to unknow. Part 2. The space between us was too loud. She didn't say a word. Not as I stood there trying to collect whatever was left of my dignity. Not as the silence thickened around us like fog. I watched her fingers tighten around the stair rail, just once, before she slowly stepped back. Not up, not down, just back. And still, she didn't break eye contact. That was the part that undid me. Because in that moment, she wasn't just my sister. She wasn't the same girl I grew up teasing over cereal boxes and fighting over the remote with. Something had changed in the space between those floorboards and the hum of the basement light. And I don't think either of us knew what to do with it. When the door finally clicked shut behind her, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. My body felt warm in the worst way, not heat like comfort, but heat like exposure. Like every secret I'd buried had just surfaced in front of the last person on earth who should have seen it. I stayed down there for almost an hour. Long enough for my heartbeat to slow. Long enough for the shame to start melting into something more dangerous, curiosity. Because I couldn't stop replaying it. The look in her eyes. Not just shock. Not just confusion. There was something else layered behind it. Something I shouldn't have seen, but did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard her walking past my room twice. Once she paused. Her shadow stood at the bottom of my door like a question no one wanted to ask. And then it moved on. By morning, everything should have gone back to normal. We were good at pretending in our house. Good at swallowing awkward things and painting over them with sarcasm. That was our rhythm. But that morning, she couldn't even look at me. She passed me in the hallway, close enough to brush shoulders, but didn't. Her lips were slightly parted, like she was about to say something, but didn't. And the strangest part? My skin missed the contact that never happened. That day, something shifted. We were orbiting each other differently now, like two magnets turned the wrong way. Still pulled, still resisting. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't over. Not even close. Part 3. Things she didn't say with her eyes. It started small. Little things. Lingering glances in places where glances didn't belong. The way she'd pause when I walked into a room. Like she was waiting for something to pass through her before she could speak. We didn't talk about the basement. We didn't even talk about the weather or who left dishes in the sink. But the silence between us was starting to feel crowded. I caught her staring at me once. Not in some dramatic, cinematic way. Just quietly. I was leaning against the kitchen counter, eating cereal straight from the box, when I felt it. The kind of gaze you feel before you see. I turned, and there she was. Sitting at the table, legs crossed, one hand curled around a mug she hadn't sipped in minutes. Her eyes flicked away too late. That one look said everything she wasn't ready to say out loud. And maybe everything I wasn't ready to hear. Later that night, I walked past her room and found the door cracked. Not wide open, not fully shut. I hesitated. I don't know why. Maybe because something in me wanted to be seen again. Maybe because some part of me still burned with what had been left behind in that basement. She looked up when I entered. Her back was against the headboard, knees tucked up under an old sweatshirt. The lamp beside her glowed soft and golden, like it was protecting her from the dark. "You need something?" she asked, voice a little too steady. I didn't, but I stepped inside anyway. I told her I couldn't sleep, that I'd been thinking too much. She nodded like she understood, like she hadn't been doing the exact same thing. There was a pause where I almost left. I should have. But then she shifted slightly, and the side of the bed opened like an invitation. I sat down. Not close. Not touching. Just near enough to feel the warmth of her leg beside mine. She asked what I was thinking about. I told her I didn't know how to explain it. And then, she looked at me. Really looked. Like she was seeing me for the first time, and the last time, all in the same breath. And in that silence, something between us cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but enough for the heat to escape. Neither of us said the truth, but we both felt it. Loud, quiet, impossible. Part 4. Her knee touched mine and didn't move. I should have left. Every cell in my body knew that. But none of them listened. The moment her knee brushed against mine, I forgot how to sit still. The room felt warmer than it was. The air tasted like electricity, thick, buzzing, like it was about to storm. But it didn't storm outside. It was all inside me. She didn't pull her leg back. Not even an inch. Just left it there, touching mine in a way that was almost nothing, but also everything. My throat went dry. I glanced at her. She didn't look away this time. She held my gaze, steady and unreadable, like she was trying to decide something. Or maybe she already had. "I keep thinking about that night," she whispered. There it was. Out loud. Real. My heart stopped and raced at the same time. What night? She gave me a look that made the lie fall flat between us. She didn't answer, just turned her face slightly, letting her hair fall in a way that exposed the curve of her neck. The way the lamplight kissed her skin felt personal, intimate, like the room was conspiring with her body. I leaned back slightly, as if distance could fix what closeness had already done. But my knee stayed right where it was, against hers. "I didn't mean to walk in," she said, softer now. "But I saw more than I should have." Silence again. Then she added, almost to herself, "I didn't look away fast enough. Neither did I, back then. And now, with only a few inches between us and 1,000 thoughts rushing in, I couldn't breathe right. I shouldn't have been down there," I said, voice low. "I know," she replied. "But I think part of me was meant to see it." That broke me, because it wasn't shame anymore. It was hunger. Not for touch, not yet, but for knowing. For being understood in a way I hadn't expected. For being seen and not turned away. Her fingers rested beside mine on the bed, not touching, but close enough to count every heartbeat between them. We didn't move. We just stayed there, suspended in the quiet ache of what almost was, and what might still be. And suddenly, nothing in the house felt familiar anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because anything happened. Not in the way most people would think. No, we didn't touch. Not really. Not physically, at least. But we crossed a line, quietly, slowly, with eyes and breath and everything unsaid. After that night in her room, something in us changed. We stopped pretending. Not all at once. Just in the way we paused a little too long in doorways. And how she'd wait for me to sit beside her on the couch instead of across the room. How our knees would find each other under the kitchen table and stay there, unspoken but intentional. She started wearing my hoodies again. She used to steal them all the time growing up. But this was different. Now she'd wear them without a bra, sleeves pulled over her hands, eyes soft and unreadable, like she was wrapped in something she wasn't ready to name. And I started watching her in ways I couldn't before. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't not. The way she'd tuck her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way her voice would drop when we were alone, like it knew what we were doing and didn't want anyone else to hear. We never said the word. We didn't have to. One evening, it rained, hard. The kind that makes the whole house feel like it's underwater. I was in the living room, lights dim, music low, scrolling through nothing. She walked in wearing one of my old shirts. Just that. Her legs bare, skin glowing from the shower. She didn't say hi. just sat beside me, close enough to share breath. Our arms touched. She didn't move away. I turned to her slowly. "What are we doing?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. Just a soft inhale, like her body was answering for her. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I don't want to stop." And in that moment, no kiss, no touch, no dramatic soundtrack, I felt more undone than I ever had in my life. Because I knew we were balancing on the edge of something dangerous, and neither of us was ready to step back. Part 6. The first time she reached for me. The night it happened, the house was so quiet it felt like it was listening. I'd just gotten out of the shower. My skin still tingled from the heat, and the towel around my neck was damp and warm. I wasn't expecting to see her in the hallway. Not that close, not that still. She was leaning against the wall, arms folded, like she'd been waiting. She didn't speak, just looked at me. And for the first time, I couldn't look away. Something in her face, that silence, that softness, it pulled me in like gravity. I stepped closer, slowly, careful not to make it real too fast. She didn't move. Not back, not forward. Just watch me come to her like we both knew I would. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said, barely louder than the whisper of her breath. That was it. No grand confession. No explanation. Just the truth, dropped between us like a spark on dry leaves. And I couldn't lie either. "I know," I said. My hand brushed her wrist. Not on purpose, or maybe it was. Her skin was warm. And when I didn't pull back, she tilted her head slightly, like she was searching my eyes for permission I didn't know I'd already given. Then, she reached for me. Not boldly, not recklessly, just a slow movement, like her fingers had been wanting this longer than she'd admitted even to herself. She touched my chest, right over where my heartbeat stammered beneath the cotton of my shirt. Her fingers trembled slightly. I covered her hand with mine. And there we were, two people holding one impossible truth between them. No turning back, no pretending, just breath and skin and everything we weren't supposed to feel. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. "Me neither," I said. "But I don't want it to stop." She stepped closer. Our foreheads almost touched. Her lashes fluttered. My hands hovered near her waist, not daring to close the space. Not yet. And in that tiny space between contact and collapse, I swear we said more than words ever could. She didn't kiss me, but her breath found my neck. Slow, shaky, real, and it was enough to set everything inside me on fire. Part 7. The way her breath found mine. I remember the way her fingers curled into my shirt. Not pulling, not pushing, just holding. Like the fabric anchored her to something she wasn't sure she could trust, but didn't want to let go of. I stood there, arms still hovering, afraid that if I touched her too soon, the moment would disappear. But it didn't. It deepened. Her breath was shallow and warm against my throat, and I felt her chest rise, slow, hesitant, brushing mine. That small contact undid me. Not because it was bold, but because it wasn't. It was timid, careful, like she was discovering me with her breath before her hands ever dared. I whispered her name, not as a question, just to say it. Her eyes fluttered open, wide and unsure. But when she looked at me, I saw no fear, only longing. Only the kind of ache you carry in your bones when you've wanted something for too long but never allowed yourself to reach. Then, finally, my hands found her. One to her waist, the other lightly at the back of her neck, my fingers buried in the soft curtain of her hair. She let out the faintest sound, a breath caught between want and disbelief. Our foreheads touched, and for a moment, we just stayed like that. Still, pressed together at the edges of something neither of us had language for. "I keep waking up thinking this isn't real," she said. "It is," I whispered, "even if it shouldn't be." Her lips brushed mine. Not a kiss, not quite, just the ghost of one. A passing of heat and hope and hesitation. My body lit up like her breath was gasoline, and I'd been waiting years to catch fire. She closed the rest of the distance. The kiss was soft, too soft, like both of us were afraid it would end the world we were creating. But then, her hand slid behind my neck, pulling me deeper. Her body melted into mine, warm and trembling. The kiss turned into something slower, heavier, like time gave us permission to feel what we hadn't dared say. When we finally pulled apart, she looked at me like the storm had already happened. Eyes wide, breath shallow. "What now?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. But I knew this. Nothing would ever be the same. And neither of us wanted to go back. Part Part 8. The Secret We Never Spoke Again. The next morning, the sun felt too bright. I woke up to the sound of her footsteps just outside my door. Light, hesitant, like maybe she wasn't sure she belonged there anymore. For a second, I thought about opening it, letting her in, letting us continue whatever last night had started. But I didn't. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, feeling the imprint of her kiss still lingering on my lips, and the weight of everything it meant pressing down on my chest. We didn't speak about it after that. Not in words. She went back to her routines, cereal in the mornings, earbuds in while folding laundry, half smiles in passing. But something between us had changed. We didn't need to name it. It was in every glance that lasted a second too long, in every pause before walking away, in the quiet moments when we were near each other and neither of us dared to breathe too deep. The basement stayed locked after that. I asked Dad to fix the light, told him it flickered weird and made me uncomfortable. He shrugged and never asked why. But I knew. That space had already seen too much. It had become something else entirely. One night, weeks later, she passed me in the hallway. We didn't touch, but her shoulder brushed mine, soft, intentional. She didn't stop walking, just said, "Good night," over her shoulder in a voice that was almost a whisper. It was the way she said it that wrecked me, like she was saying goodbye to something we'd never be able to explain. That was the last night we ever spoke without a filter. Everything after came dressed in small talk and avoidance. Life pulled us back into its expected shape, but I don't think either of us fully fit the mold again. Because the truth is, she saw something in me that night in the basement. And for a brief, burning moment, I saw it in her too. Some secrets don't fade with time. They live in the space between memory and silence, pulsing quietly, like a wound that never quite scars over.